At the end of 2021, I did a Google Complete interview. As it has been almost 4 years, most of the information in that video is now out of date. I am therefore going to be again answering all the questions that people Google about me, for some reason. So I'll start with what. What is DarkViperAU real name? My name is Matthew Judge. What is DarkViperAU net worth? As I always say, it's none of your business. I have quite a bit of money. I'm doing very well. I own a house in Sydney, which has some of, if not the most expensive real estate in the entire world. What did DarkViperAU do? Everything. All the time. It was 100% my fault, and I'm not sorry. What are DarkViperAU headphones? They are the KOS KS-C75 Mass Drop Edition. So the non-Mass Drop version are gray, these are black. You can only get them from Mass Drop. I use them because they're open back, on ear, lightweight, and they don't have a strap over the head. They're well known in the audiophile community for having really good quality audio despite being a fairly cheap price. The price has gone up over the years largely because of me. So many people buy them now because I made them popular. That's not true. It's in part inflation and just in general, they're becoming more popular, I suppose. What happened to DarkViperAU? Everything. And it was everyone else's fault. What disease does DarkViperAU have? I have Hashimoto's disease, which is basically where my body thinks that my thyroid is a foreign invader to my body or something, and so it gets attacks. But very recently, this has gone into remission, so I no longer have to take the medication that I was taking before, which is cool. It wasn't a huge burden on my life. I guess I still have only a mild case. It's only really a problem when it doesn't get treated. But as I say, I'm in remission now, so just every 6 months or something, I'll get myself tested to see if it comes back, but hopefully not. One less thing to be worried about. What time does DarkViperAU stream? This is so hard to explain to people. Time zones are really confusing, and different parts of the world have daylight savings time at different times. Even in Australia, not every state has daylight savings time. So even places that are like in a row, the time changes depending upon certain times of the year. And I don't think every part of the world has daylight savings times even at the same time of the year. So I stream at 10 a.m. my time every day. So we'll put some times on screen as to what that corresponds with in a bunch of parts of the world. And once you've figured out what it is in your time zone, that's when it's always going to be. Until daylight saving screws that up, but there's nothing I can do about that. Daylight saving sucks. What country is DarkViperAU from? The AU in my name makes that pretty obvious. It's Austria. You can tell by the accent. See, I want to leave it there as just a joke, but some people will take that seriously. I am Australian. I don't sound very Australian. I have what is called the cultivated Australian accent, and the way my mouth forms R's and W's is a bit weird sometimes, and that adds a bit of like spice to my accent, I suppose. But even in Australia, I've had people who are Australian go, "Oh, do you have a South African accent?" Or like, "Where are you from?" My accent's weird. What can I say? Moving on to how. How old is DarkViperAU? Well, I guess I should say I was born in 1991, so from then, do the math. It's almost my birthday, which is March 15th. So currently I'm 33, almost 34. But you might watch this video in the future, so you might have to do a little bit of math yourself to figure out the answer. I'm sorry. Almost 34 and don't look a day over 50. How tall is DarkViperAU? I'm 6 foot, like everyone else who's 5 foot something. So I'm actually 5'10". One of the most funny facts about male height in self-reporting is that people who are 5'11" are massively underrepresented on the bell curve. So there's a natural bell curve and then dips in for 5'11" and then peaks up to 6 foot and then goes back down to normal distribution. And the reason for that is anyone who's close to 6 foot just calls themselves 6 foot. But being 5'10", I'm not close enough to be able to claim that I'm 6 foot. How old is DarkViperAU girlfriend? She is 28. Which is honestly probably the best kind of age difference that you can have in a relationship. Women tend to like older guys, guys tend to like younger women, and having a 5-year age difference means that, you know, we're not a part of different generations, but we've had somewhat different life experience, and so can bring interesting stuff to the table of the relationship, you know. How old is DarkViperAU's wife? She's 32. I, of course, do not have a wife. Maybe one day, as long as Aitana approves, you know. Moving on to who? Who is DarkViperAU girlfriend? My girlfriend is Aitana, and we met through my sister. Basically, my sister was over one day, and she came up to me and said, "Hey, I have this friend who wants to meet you, go out on a date." She's like, "Oh, she's beautiful, she's wonderful, she's so smart and knows 5 languages. I work with her, you two will get along great, she'll take you places." And I looked at my sister and said, I got stuff to do. You know, I got so much editing to do and all my live streaming stuff. And as much as I like the idea of finding a partner that I could trust and who would support me in my life and who I could do things with, you know how it is dating, right? Like, you expect to go through like 100 people in some dating app or whatever before you eventually find the one and it enriches your life. I just didn't really want to spend that time to go through that process. I always thought I would eventually get burnt out in my job and then pseudo retire and spend more time on the other aspects of life that I was ignoring. But because it was my sister, like I trust my sister, she's always been lovely to me. And as I've always said, I got very lucky having the family that I do. They've always supported me and enriched my life. Because it was her, I'm like, okay, well, I'll give it a shot. My sister wouldn't set me up with someone that she didn't think would be worth my time. And so I met Aitana, first date, and we hit it off immediately. There's always some awkwardness on a first date or whatever, but we just talked and we vibed so well. I don't think I've ever vibed with someone that well in any time in my entire life. It was certainly the best first date I've ever had, although I only have like 5 other comparisons. But it was like first date with Aitana here, everyone else down here. And so we've now been together for a year, and it's been great. She has greatly enriched my life, and I hope I've done the same for her. On the flip side, for Aitana, because she worked with my sister for a long time, and they would constantly talk about how they have bad luck with dating. And Aitana's explaining to my sister about the most recent bad date that she went on. And I don't remember why, but then my sister mentioned me. And Aitana says like, what do you mean you have a brother who is around my age that I could go on a date with or something? Why have you not mentioned this before? I've known you for so long and you never mentioned this? And my sister, of course, she loves me, so she's talking me up something fierce. Maybe higher than she should have, setting a standard that I couldn't possibly meet, as my sister does. But despite that, as I say, things worked out with Aitana, and I hope they continue to. I hope regardless of the time you see this video in the future, I am still with Aitana, and we're both happy. Moving on to why. Why did DarkViperAU stop speedrunning? It's important to understand that when I first started making gaming content, I didn't even see myself as a YouTuber. I live streamed from the end of 2014 to like the start of 2018 before I put any gaming content on my YouTube channel related to GTA 5. The YouTube content I made during that time was about philosophy, society, politics, putting my ideas out there in the world. I never thought I'd become a gaming YouTuber. My interest in speedrunning was the live streaming aspect of it. So I speedran on Twitch every moment I could in that period, and I speedran like 5,000 hours. And that's a lot of time to do speedrunning over and over and over again. So I wasn't burnt out on speedrunning, but when you spend that much time doing one thing, it's nice to move on to other stuff, right? And so when I started making YouTube content, I started making facts and glitches and the challenge runs and all that jazz, that took up more and more of my time. And as I became more focused on making entertaining content for YouTube, I couldn't compete with the other speedrunners because I would just not put as much time into it as I did in the past. So I slowly moved away from speedrunning and into doing other content, but the nail in the coffin, I think, was No Damage. It took me so long to finally complete No Damage, a year and a half, that while I did a small amount of speedrunning during that time, I just fell way too far behind, and it was never realistic that I could catch up while juggling my other responsibilities in making content. And so I've largely just given up entirely. Like I'll still come back occasionally and do runs. Like I did one maybe 6 months ago or something. You can find that on the channel. You can also see my KO speedruns, which is the online speedrunning, shorter speedruns. But it's very unlikely I'll ever dedicate myself to speedrunning again because the challenge runs are just more casual and in a way more interesting to me now. In a challenge run, I can take it at my own pace. I can break it up over many live streams. I learn new things about the game. Speedrunning is just more repetitive compared to doing some new challenge run. And what I like about the challenge runs is that once I've beaten the challenge, it's done. Speedrunning never ends. It just goes on forever. So you can say it's a loss of interest, but also gaining interest in other things. But it's also having a lot more things that take up my time in regards to making entertaining content. Will I speedrun for GTA 6? Yes, I will. I'm not sure how much. There'll be some of it, but I'll do a mix of the same sort of content I do now, but for GTA 6. When did DarkViperAU start streaming? As I somewhat talked about before, I started streaming at the end of 2014, so I have been doing it for over 10 years now. I started making YouTube videos at the end of 2012, as I said, and not about gaming stuff. And I found Twitch through Hearthstone tournaments, surprisingly. Like I saw on YouTube, someone saying like, hey, I'm doing a Hearthstone tournament and it's gonna be hosted here on Twitch. I'm like, what the hell is Twitch? A lot of the early content that I watched was Hearthstone, which is the Blizzard card game based on Warcraft, because I was very into World of Warcraft and Warcraft 3 at the time. Moving on to does DarkViperAU have a world record? The only world record I have right now is the tied world record for glitchless masks, which is the individual level where you buy masks for the Blitzplay heist. It's 2 seconds. I was the first person to ever get 2 seconds. Eventually a glitch was found to get it down to 1 second. I also have the world record in that, but that's a tied world record and I wasn't the first person to do it. So I much prefer my glitchless world record. There have been times in the past where I've had all the world records in all the main categories, but those days are long gone. My peak in speedrunning was between 2017 and 2019. The last world record I held in a major category was 2019. It's why referring to myself as a speedrunner or other people doing so, it's more about the brand of who I am. I'm more of a challenge runner or a GT5 content creator these days. It is very hard to maintain a world record in a competitive game that is speedrun actively by a lot of people. There's no way that I can compete these days. Unnamed is massively dominant in GTA 5 these days. Will I ever hold a world record again? I doubt in GTA 5, but maybe in GTA 6. It depends on how much I dedicate myself to it, especially in the early days when, you know how when a new game comes out that people start speedrunning, there's always world records to snap up, at least for a short period. But as I say, I'm unlikely to dedicate myself enough to GTA 5 speedrunning again to hold a world record in any of the main categories. Unfortunate. Does DarkViperAU like Red Dead Redemption 2? I do. So for those who don't know, when Red Dead Redemption 2 came out in 2018 on console, I played the game first. Like, I got myself a PlayStation account in New Zealand so I could play it like an hour before everyone else. And I played it like 12 hours the first day, like 12 hours the next day. I gave up going to PAX 2018, one of the few events I go to each year to play this game. And I didn't enjoy myself nearly as much as I wanted to. I understood the game, looked nice and stuff, but the game was way too slow for me. It felt like I was just playing a game encased in jello. Like, all the movements were slow, the animations were slow, the picking up stuff was slow, the story progressed slowly. My attempts to like rush through the game in a way probably ruined it for me in a way. I just came into the game with a bad mindset, and for that reason I didn't enjoy myself, and I made jokes about the game despite knowing that it was a good game objectively and how well it sold and everyone loved it. I constantly talked about how I didn't like the game and it was too slow and it was shit, at least in a joking way. When it finally released on PC at the end of 2019, I enjoyed the game a bit more, but it had technical difficulties for me where it would constantly crackle in terms of the audio, and the port was notoriously terrible in the beginning. And so I played it for like 4 hours, and the shooting was a lot better because it was on keyboard and mouse, but I didn't play it any more than that. So I played like 30 to 40 hours on console and didn't beat the game. And then like 4 hours on PC and just couldn't get back into it. It was, I remembered too much of my console experience. So it was just playing a game again that I didn't enjoy the first time around. But in 2024, I went back and played it again, this time on PC. No technical issues, or at least not many, with the ports because it had been patched a lot since then. They fixed some of the issues that I had in the console version where the animations were now a lot faster. And I came at the game with a different mindset. I understood what it was trying to do, the slow story it was telling. I invested myself more in the characters. I took my time playing it each day rather than rushing through it. And I enjoyed myself far more. And I see it more as the masterpiece that it always has been. Do I regret the early days? To some degree, yes. I would have loved to have just massively enjoyed the game day one. Do I regret the jokes I made? A lot of those are still really funny. The only thing I regret is if I made any people who worked on the game feel bad, but I hope they would just see me as some loser who doesn't like something clearly good, than getting offended or sad over that, because the game sold massively well and people loved it, so why would they care about my opinion over anyone else's? But these days, I'm making Red Dead Redemption 2 facts and glitches videos with the help of some speedrunners who run the game actively. I myself wanted to speedrun it, but I got involved in some drama that took up my time, and so I no longer have time for it. I'm also occasionally doing Red Dead Redemption 2 Chaos. I even spent money having people improve the already existing Chaos mod for me to make it more in line with the GTA 5 Chaos mods. But the Chaos videos for Red Dead 2 haven't done as well, and the mod is less stable than the GTA 5 version, so I haven't done that much of it, but I'll likely get back to it at some point. So yeah, things have certainly progressed in terms of my opinion of Red Dead 2. I like it a lot these days, and obviously I'm looking forward to GTA 6 more than a potential Red Dead Redemption 3, but I hope they do a Red Dead Redemption 3 one day. Does DarkViperAU have hearing aids? So people might be asking this because I use this headset. And so in a lot of pictures of me, especially on Instagram, you'll see me with this on my head. This is the mini size of the Shox Open Run Bone Conduction Sports headphones. So bone conducing headsets aren't like normal headsets because they don't go fully in your ear. They vibrate your bone, and this transmits sound to your inner ear. Like, you use one, it takes like a day to get used to, and then it's just like a normal headset, right? The advantages of this is that it's 100% waterproof. There is no place for water to get in this, and so I wear it in the shower. I have it on basically all the time when I'm not on stream, everywhere that I go. I have 2 pairs, and so I trade them out if I want one to charge. And it's because I like listening to audiobooks. And so, you know, in the shower of a morning, I'll just be like, bip, and listen to my audiobook. But they do look a bit like hearing aids for those who aren't aware of them, which is funny because I did once upon a time repair hearing aids, hearing devices for a living. I guess it would have been between like 2010 and 2013 or something. I'm not sure how long I was there, but I quit before I started doing my degree. Yeah, so a long time ago. But yeah, I love these things, and I highly recommend them to anyone who wants to listen to stuff in the shower, or a person who, you know, does a lot of sports and exercise and stuff and sweats a lot. This is the kind of headset that you want. Does DarkViperAU have a degree? When I left school, I was working at Kohl's, the supermarket, as I ended up working there for 5+ years. And so I wanted something that I could do like part-time along with my normal work. And so I went to TAFE, which I guess is what, community college or something in America. I don't know. I don't know if that's equivalent, but it's not like a university, right? And I did a course in community services. So I got a certificate in community services, primarily because it would give me more universities that I could have access to when I wanted to actually go to university. I was kind of burnt out on studying, and I was like, I'm just so fucking over this, but I want to still continue my studies in some degree. So I had both things going on. I was gonna do the diploma in community services as well. I was like halfway through it, so fucking burnt out on studying. And then I remember my teacher being like, okay, so the next assessment is a group presentation. And I was like, fuck this. And I quit. And so I ended up just finding myself a better job, which was repairing hearing aids and hearing devices with Phonak and Sonova or something, which is a combine of 2 companies. It was kind of confusing. But then after a few years of working with them and being like one of the best workers in my department, they put in a new policy where they didn't allow you to listen to stuff with like earphones while you're working. What I would normally do is I would listen to the device, find out what was wrong with it. I would then put in like my earphones and listen to podcasts and stuff while I repaired the device. And they said, nah, it's too distracting for people. You can't do that anymore. And so I tried working there for another 2 weeks, and I went goddamn insane. It is the most monotonous, boring job of just doing the exact same repairs or replacing certain things over and over again. I was just going insane. And so I went, screw this. I need to do something that mentally stimulates me again. It's been years now since I've been studying, so I'll go back and go to university. And so then I went and got a psych degree. And so that was during 2012, 2013 to the end of 2016. And it was during that period where, because I had a more flexible schedule and more free time, that I could make some YouTube content and get involved in that and get involved in live streaming as well. And so when I finished my degree at the end of 2016, it was also around the time that I was doing decently well on Twitch. Like I had like 8,000 followers and stuff. And so I was like, well, you know, I've got no constraints on my time now. Maybe I'll dedicate myself more to this live streaming thing. And the rest is history, right? Ended up working out. So yeah, I have a Cert 4 in community services and a bachelor's of social science with a major in psychology. Would have been a double major, the second major being in criminology, but I was 1 unit shy. And I found that if I went back and did that unit, they wouldn't give me the double major anyway. So I was like, fuck it. Does DarkViperAU have a dog? Currently, no. People probably think that I do because I have all of my emotes based on a Samoyed, which is a cute, fluffy white dog. In reality, it's based on a GIF that I saw where it's just like a Samoyed waving going like, hi. Before that, I actually have my emotes for a short period based on Shibas, because I also like Shibas. Shibas are very cute. So Samoyeds and Shibas are my favorite dogs. But unfortunately, both Samoyeds and Shibas take a lot of time to take care of and stuff. And as a person who normally dedicates all of their time to their work, I didn't feel like I could responsibly take care of a dog, and so I haven't got one. Now that I live with Aitana, at least she lives with me, we have talked about getting a dog, and we'll probably get one eventually. But whether that will be a Samoyed or Shiba, I don't know, because they are, as I say, very full-on dogs. Like you gotta brush a Samoyed like 15 times a day and walk it like 1,000,000 times a day. They have both dogs have so much energy. I have had dogs in the past. The only dog I've ever owned was named Sammy. He was a silky cross terrier. He kind of looked like this. He lived for like 1,000,000 years. I don't know, like 15 years or something. I got him when I was 6 and he died when I was like 21 or something, around there. One of my biggest regrets in life was I didn't go when they put him down, because he had a lot of medical complications and he was just in pain constantly. And he was almost entirely blind by the end of it. And it hurt me that he didn't remember me. And it was just like so sad. But despite that, I really wish I had gone to see his final moments and supported him in the end. But it's that's what happens when family pets get old, you know. Yeah, Sammy, my first dog. Moving on to where? Where was DarkViperAU born? I was born in Australia. My parents are both Australian. Their parents are both Australian. My sister is really into genealogy, and so she knows the extended family history of like where we all come from. Like, she's done all these DNA tests and stuff. Like we have like 10%, 15% DNA from Spain, or we go back to Welsh and Vikings and all this nonsense. And I'm just like, okay, that's kind of fascinating in a way, but like it's just spending a lot of time in this stuff. All I know is that, you know, the influences on me, the relatives who've been alive for as long as I've been alive, it's all Australian. So my family is not an explanation for why my accent is so weird, basically. Where in Australia does DarkViperAU live? I live in New South Wales, in Sydney. Don't like to get more specific than that. Sydney, lovely place to live. The cost of living is fairly high. The biggest problem that Sydney has is how expensive all the real estate is. In any list of the most expensive homes on the planet, we're like always in the top 5. Australia is just one of those safe, prosperous places that's like it's a Western place, but away from all the other countries. It's kind of in the middle of nowhere, similar to New Zealand. And so a lot of people like to move here, especially people who make a bit of money. Like people in China, they're always trying to move their money out of the country, and they often will buy property and stuff in Australia. It's caused a lot of different issues, but on the whole, Australia is still a lovely place to be, and Sydney as well. Moving on to I like this first one. Is TGG DarkViperAU? No, TGG is not me. I suppose TGG is probably my closest creative friend. In my earlier days of my career, I always hoped to have someone else in the space that I could like collab with when making content. I once upon a time hoped Friendly Baron would be that person, but we know how that turned out. He ended up being a weirdo guy. But me and TGG, we both make GTA content, but it's different content, and that enables us to collab and stuff, and we both belong in the same management group, so we go to events together and whatnot. We're going to Japan, not as an event thing, but just for fun in a few months, and so hopefully there'll be some content out related to that eventually. Unfortunately though, we don't really collab in our content all that much, because both of us gain success doing content that is kind of solo, and it takes more effort to do collab content than it does just to do what we normally do. And so we kind of have to run out of stuff to do to bother with that stuff to some extent, outside of when it's just fun to do. Like it's just fun to do GTA Gesser for an afternoon or whatever, but more than this takes a bit more effort. Now that I have a more consistent sleeping schedule, it's probably a little bit easier than it was in the past, so we'll see how things move forward. But TG, good dude, makes good content, and I'm happy to have met him and hung out with him and making content with him and stuff. Is DarkViperAU a voice actor? Yes, I'm a voice actor for GTA 6. It says in my Twitter bio. Given that it's in my Twitter bio, you know, it can't be false. That'd be illegal. To briefly tell the story, basically, I saw something on Twitter where a person was like, hey, if you want to get a little bit of notice as an actor, just put in your IMDb or your LinkedIn that you did something with GTA 6 or suggest it, and then everyone would talk about you all over Twitter. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do something similar. And so for the next year or so, under every tweet that I did, I just said, source, I am a voice actor for GTA 6. I claimed to be the voice actor for Lucia, and I made a bunch of jokes about this. I fooled a bunch of people. Even to this day, I fool people. People who I haven't talked to in a long time will come back and be like, yo man, what's this up with you being a voice actor for GTA 6 now? What happened? How'd that happen? You know, I even have it on my Twitch stream, voice actor for GTA 6, and a non-insignificant amount of people click that every month. It's just a meme. It's just a joke. Or maybe it's not. Maybe I'm under NDA and can't actually claim and can't actually tell you guys about my real voice actor role in GTA 6. Maybe you play the game and suddenly you start hearing my voice. Maybe it's possible, or not. You have to wait to find out. Is DarkViperAU a furry? No, I am not a furry. Honestly, if I was, I guarantee you I couldn't keep that under wraps. I've told you guys about like an unbelievable amount of stuff in my life. I'm not sure how I'd keep that a secret. I don't know why people think I am. Other than that, my emotes are dogs. But like everyone has emotes that are animals and stuff. Is DarkViperAU deaf? I assume that's again because of these headset things. No, I'm not deaf. I do have a little bit of tinnitus though, where there's a ring in your ears. I barely ever notice it, and it doesn't disrupt my ability to sleep, as far as I know. So no problems. Is DarkViperAU married? No. Hopefully one day though. Is DarkViperAU a socialist? I have been called a socialist by other people, but from what I know of what socialism entails, I am not a socialist. I don't like to get political these days as much as I did in the past. I am a person who doesn't like labels, even though I understand why they're used, because it's a quick way of communicating a lot of information to a person. But political labels tend to come with so much baggage for the individual that you can say a political word and it can mean radically different things from person A to B to C. I prefer to give my positions on topics rather than simply assign a label to myself and have people make assumptions about what positions I hold. I am not as politically active as I was in the past. I have opinions. I vote like everyone else. But I think I'll leave it at that these days. People who have referred to me as a socialist tend to do so as a way to demonize me or belittle me or to quickly dismiss me in the minds of certain people. But I've never used that label for myself, and I do not think it is accurate to refer to me in those terms. And what that term means differs from person to person anyway. But there is no sensible definition of that word that I've ever heard, which would have me apply it to it. Is DarkViperAU a virgin? No, I am not. Why would so many people be Googling that? I have had many relationships over the course of my life, most of them fairly short-lived. Actually, I suppose I've never had a relationship last longer than a year, thinking about it. I think with Aitana, we're gonna beat that, but our anniversary is in April, and it's currently February. But as I said before, I was never particularly lucky when it came to relationships, and my excursions into online dating were not a good use of time, I would say. I've got some funny stories from those times, but that's about it. And I hope, as I say, mine and Aitana's relationship works out long term, so I never have to go through the quagmire that is the current dating scene. Dating apps suck, guys. Like, it just sucks. I feel bad for anyone who has to use them and actually try to find someone, because even in the past, long past, when I used them, they weren't good, and apparently it's just even worse now. Is DarkViperAU religious? Not at all. These days, I'm more of a live and let live kind of person. In the past, especially in my earlier 20s, I did talk more about religion and debate it and discuss the ideas of religion, trying to figure out my own ideas of the world and existence and all that jazz. But I've reached a point where I'm comfortable in my own views, and I've heard a lot. As in, I would actively listen to religious debates and discuss them with people. I've reached the point where there's nothing that people can really bring to me that I haven't heard before, and I find no enjoyment in discussing religion or debating it with other people anymore. And so I live and let live these days. So a person walks up to my door and whatever religion they have, and they're like, hey, you want to learn about this? I'm like, oh no, thank you, but that's lovely. You think that, that's all good. I'm not at all hostile to religion. I think a lot of the traditions and memorabilia and stuff and all that of religion is quaint and nice, and sometimes at least. The only thing I envy about the religious though is Christians when they say to someone, my brother in Christ, what is wrong with you? It just sounds cool. So now I'll re-answer some of the questions I answered in my first Google autocomplete from years ago that didn't come up this time around. The first being, why is DarkViperAU banned from GTA Online? Years ago, I didn't make much GTA Online content, and so I would joke that I'm banned from it, and that's why I don't. But obviously that question isn't going to come up now because I've made so many GTA Online videos. So it's a positive change. I enjoy GTA Online more now than I ever did in the past, in part because I can now play the game without being harassed by modders. Because I use Guardian, which is a third-party thing that protects my network and can give me a private lobby. And also I use a VPN, so I protect my IP address and so I don't get DDoS while playing. And as well, Rockstar themselves have added some security. Not that it's done all that much, but these things enabled me to play the game when I couldn't in the past. A big reason why I used to not like GTA Online is just because I couldn't play it. Not that I'm saying GTA Online is an amazing game. I think the only reason I play it is because, well, one, for content, but two, is because I love the world of GTA so much and the gameplay of GTA. If I didn't have the thousands of hours of speedrunning, it probably wouldn't vibe with me as a game. It's just been around for too long, you know? We need GTA 6 and GTA Online 2. Why does DarkViperAU have a bald spot? I'm surprised this one didn't come up. I guess my hair is no longer short enough. Is it there somewhere? Do you see it? I used to joke that I got shot in the side of my head and you can't see the exit wound on the other side because I don't turn my head around there or something. That's obviously not true. In reality, I had a mole cut off many years ago, and so just the hair doesn't grow back there. You can only see it when my hair is very short, which is maybe why it doesn't come up as much now. But yeah, so I do have a bald spot on the side of my head, and it was just a mole being cut off. The only things I can remember about the experience was that the episode of Pokemon I watched on the screen when I was at the hospital was the one where Bulbasaur gets flushed down the toilet. Actually, as I found out later, like very recently, the Bulbasaur wasn't flushed down the toilet. It's just that he was abandoned by a child, and he was putting his vines through pipes and scaring people and stuff. So he wasn't flushed down, it's just that he was using the pipes to scare people or something. And as well, there was like a Charmander on the wall, and the doctors gassed me. I was asked like how I am, and I'm like, the Charmander is spinning on the wall or something. That's all I remember. What car does DarkViperAU drive? I drive a Lancer ES. No, I don't. That's my old car. I answered instinctively. I drive a 2021 Lexus IS 300H. It's a great car, looks cool. It costs, I think, $70,000 when I bought it. Let's see what it costs now. You can get it for like $50,000 these days, but it's a nice car. It's a hybrid. The infrastructure around here, I don't think is good enough to really support electric, and hybrid, it just has such good fuel mileage. It looks luxury, but it doesn't cost a ridiculous amount of money compared to some luxury cars. It's also apparently very safe and reliable. The only major problem I've had with the car is when Aitana accidentally put diesel in it very recently, and it had to have all that flushed out and stuff. I was on Twitter being like, Lexus is meant to be reliable. But it was obviously user error. And of course, there's all the little damage I've done to it over the years, which I had repaired very recently as well. I love the car. I don't plan on changing it anytime soon. Although I have seen the more recent Lexus models, and they have some features and stuff in the car itself that look pretty cool, but I don't drive enough to really justify upgrading. Oh, I actually have a second car now, which actually ended up being quite useful because with Aitana living with me, she can use that car. Because she used to live in the city and she didn't need a car to get around. I live almost an hour away from the city, and so she needs a car to get to work and stuff. I actually don't know what car it is. I bought it off my grandpa because my grandpa's 90 something now, and so he's no longer physically fit enough to drive the car, and so I wanted to help him with his finances and stuff because he's in retirement, and so I bought the car from him. And so it's worked out for me, but it's like an SUV kind of thing. Is my car my main mode of transport for me? Yes, it is. And I'll be honest with you, when me and Aitana go out places, I prefer when she drives. She likes driving more than I do, and she's also better at reverse parking. She sucks at front parking though. I've always front parked everywhere. She is always reverse parked, and depending upon the particular parking spot, we can like take turns actually parking the car. The reason why I bought this Lexus, because my old 2004 Lancer looked like shit. It's funny, I was vibing pretty well with this chick on a dating app a long time ago, and we were gonna meet, but I was like, my car is still pretty shit. You know, I'm meant to be getting my car soon, my new car. I had ordered it, my Lexus. I'm like, I'll drag this out for a couple of weeks, and then I'll get my car, and then I can like show up in a brand new car and look pretty cool. But as it turned out, COVID caused a lot of delays in me getting my Lexus, and what embers were there just fizzled out, and I never ended up meeting her. So it's possible that, you know, had I just stuck with my Lancer, I would have met someone else, and I wouldn't be with Aitana now. So things worked out. Is DarkViperAU left-handed? No. I have a left hand. In some scenes on my OBS, my camera is mirrored, so it looks like I'm left-handed. But in reality, I just think it makes more sense for a person to be looking at the gameplay when they're playing. I hate anyone's layout on Twitch where they're not looking at the game, where they're looking off screen and stuff. I wonder if those people just look worse mirrored or something. Like their faces aren't symmetrical enough and they look strange, which does happen for some people. For me, I look fine, normal or mirrored. So I just mirror my camera to look at the gameplay. So I am right-handed, which is this one. Is DarkViperAU autistic? No, I'm not autistic. I've never been diagnosed with it. As a person who's done a psych degree, and I know to some degree the requirements for such a diagnosis, I do not fit any of them really. The only one that has ever really fit me at all is sleep issues. But that's, you know, a thousand different reasons can cause that. And a lot of it for me has just been lifestyle. Being now with Aitana and having a reason to go to bed and more of a reason to wake up, I have not struggled that much to maintain a more consistent sleeping schedule and streaming each day. Again, showcasing that it's mainly lifestyle issues that cause my sleeping issues as opposed to, you know, some neurological issue. I will say though to the people out there who worry that they might have such issues, you know, everyone has their own little quirks and problems and all that jazz. It's nothing to be too concerned about. The reason why you should seek a diagnosis is when you have a problem that you find yourself unable to overcome. In my life, I've never met something that I've not been able to do. And so undoubtedly, if I went to some professional, they could give me any number of diagnoses for anything. But until I reach the point where I have a problem that I can't solve, I'm not gonna ever do such things, you know? Did DarkViperAU finish No Damage, or OHKO as it's called? Yes, I did, a long time ago. Very satisfying. It is still my most viewed video of all time, currently sitting at 8 million views. The drama around that, very much so in the past. Me and our name have been cool for years. It is still one of my crowning achievements, one of the best videos I've ever made, and I look upon those times very fondly these days. I hope to do the same challenge with GTA 6, and I hope it goes just as well. Or rather, I hope it goes better, because I guess there was a lot of pain and suffering during those periods, but it's all in the past. I think of that time very fondly. And so that is the end of my Google Autocomplete interview that I've done with myself. Thank you for watching. thank you for hanging out. I hope I answered all the questions that you could have possibly had about me. If not, you can feel free to put them in my AMA section on my Discord. And I may eventually answer them for my monthly Yap series, which I hope you all watch, because it is many hours each month of me yapping. And if you like this video, you'll probably like that series too. I wish you all the best. Bye-bye.